Okay, right, hello. Now the first part of this, you came along with, I did a nutrition one a couple of months ago. Do you remember this graph from the start? Yeah? Sort of. I'll just quickly run through it because that's like the basis for the whole presentation bit. So it's just looking at the way people typically diet. Sometimes it'll be on a long-term scale, but sometimes it'll just be, if you say you go on holiday or something like that, people do it on a short-term scale, and they just drop their calories right down, and then this period here is the diet. So you're with me there? Yeah, of course. And then we know that if you drop calories below your current level, you lose weight, right? That's the law. Yeah, so we'll start losing weight, and that's fine, that's great. And so on the face of it, the low-calorie diet works really well, and that's how every diet basically works. Whether it's juicing, whether it's Slim and World, whether it's Atkins diet, it goes in roundabout ways, but essentially that's how it works. But then the problem if this reduction is too great is that your metabolism as well slows down. And so the metabolism is basically the energy out that you expend. The calories are the energy in. And so it's just that dotted line versus the dashed line that affects how much you weigh. Make sense? So really, if we're trying to be in a good position to lose weight, you want the dotted line to be as high as possible, because then you've got the most amount of room to move. So say here you're on 2,000 calories a day, and then say this number here, not that uncommon, would be 800. So we finish the diet and we step the calories straight back up. You start eating back, you used to eat 2,000 a day and now you're eating 2,000 a day again. Now, here, when all these three lines were the same, you maintain your weight. Now, when you took the calories below your metabolism, you lost weight. Now the calories are jumped higher, but your metabolism is slower. So you put on the weight, and then you put it on, and because your metabolism is always, even here, it's lagging behind. It's always lagging behind. You put on weight again a little bit more. Yeah? And so from doing the initial diet to lose weight, actually long term you put on weight. Yeah? And then the more we do this, I'm overweight again, I drop my calories down, your metabolism is not as high here as it was here, and then the problem just gets worse. Alright? And then they term this metabolic damage, they call it. But it's not actually damage, it's just that things have slowed down to cope with the fact you haven't fed yourself very much. And that's basically what I've run through on the lower half. If you have a quick read through the points on there, that's what I've said there. So turn over, let me get a tissue, need to wipe that off. So, yeah, like I say, I went over that last time. I know not everyone was here, but that's the basis of the whole thing. So the next part I want to look at, so how does your body do it? So this thing here, which looks complicated-ish, but it's not really. They're just the things that make up your energy expenditure. So the biggest one is the big black part, is basal metabolic rate. So basically, again, I've covered this before, which is basically all the calories that you burn at rest. So for you to just survive, to breathe, to maintain your weight, you need a certain number of calories, yeah? Without even moving or getting up out of bed. And that, as you can see, this graph kind of, it's hypothetical to an extent, but it's trying to show you how much of your metabolism each one's responsible for. And that's by far, you can see the biggest one. So the biggest thing that your body spends energy on is just keeping you alive, basically. The next one, the TEF, is just the thermic effect of food, so digesting food. So now clearly we can quickly see if you stop eating as much food, you expend less energy eating the food. I'll go into it later, but you actually become more efficient at digesting food as well. But that is one that most people completely forget about altogether, that you actually burn calories when you eat food. So So that's what that one is. Next one, NEAT, NEAT, is just non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So it's basically just daily activities. So making the dinner, taking the dog for a walk, walking from your car to your seat there, you're burning more calories to do that than you were just at rest. I think it's about, most people typically, it's about 100 calories a mile on foot, whether you're running or walking, for example. And that would therefore come under this one. And so sometimes, what will happen when people start exercising or when people reduce their calories is without you even knowing it, your body reduces this one. And so, without you even knowing that you're doing it, you're less active. You'll subconsciously make the lazy decisions. And I suppose, in modern society, I guess, this is becoming more and more easy. With obviously telly remote car, everything's going more and more that way, you have to do less and less. So this has become smaller and smaller. Then the last one, which on this graph is only a tiny little portion, but we can change that, is the exercise activity thermogenesis, which is, your exercise. Now, so obviously the more you exercise, the bigger that one gets. So that is the one that you're probably most in charge of. Of course you are in charge of this. Like when people do stuff like, there was a lady I was training for Lent, she decided to stop using escalators and lifts and use stairs. And that's a good way of boosting this one. But obviously this one is just your gym attendance, right? But your body's good at, so say if you reduce an intake, it will be able to reduce all of these. Okay, I'll go into a little bit more of that one later on. Now, see below there at the bottom of the page, and we've got a picture of a couple of mice there. Yeah. Now this gets a little bit more in depth. Basically, the more, on the graph at the start when I showed you about you shooting body fat up, so after a diet, your metabolism slows down, and then you go back to eating as you were, and then the quicker you do that, basically if you're overfeeding massively, your body will not only begin to fill the fat cells that you got, it'll create new ones. Okay, with me there. The problem with that is once you create a new fat cell, you can't get rid of it. You can just empty it or fill it. Now, a few years ago, well, around 20 years ago, they discovered this hormone called leptin that I've written about there. And basically, your fat cells secrete that, and they tell you when you've had enough. So they basically tell you, stop eating with you're full, I don't want any more. The example there is that's just to highlight how important it is, in that the one on the left, they've basically managed to genetically make him that he can't produce leptin. So this mouse just eats all day, he just eats and eats, he never knows when he's full. And that's just giving some perspective of what happens there with that hormone that's not present. That's how important it is to regulate body weight. Now the problem is, in overweight people, if you click over the page there, this way? Am I looking this way? Nah, yeah, mine's in the wrong order, that's all right. You go that page, during obesity, people become, brilliant. So, like when, in diabetes, type 2 diabetes is when basically you keep spiking the hormone insulin. And so, insulin gets produced when you eat sugary foods or when you eat carbs. And it will get produced when you eat any food, but especially your pasta, spices, and your sweets and your sugars and things like that. And it makes your blood sugar go up and your insulin levels go up to bring it down. Insulin basically takes sugar out of the blood and stores it away in tissues. If you keep doing that your whole life, your body the tissues become resistant to it. It's happened too much. That makes sense? And so you become resistant to insulin, and the worst form of that, you become type 2 diabetic. Now a similar kind of thing happens with overweight people. In that hormone leptin, when your fat cells go full, it screams out, you're full, but your brain doesn't register and you still keep eating. But that will only happen from chronic overfeeding. But from that graph, underfeeding, overfeeding, it's more likely to happen. You with me? Okay. So, if we go underneath there, I'll just quickly go through a few of these things. So, they're the things that basically happen when you go on the diet. So, you reduced exercise. You're more than likely, if you're not eating very many calories, you're more than likely tired, you're going to be fatigued. The option of going to the gym is probably more likely to be no than yes if you're feeling tired. That's as simple as that, really. Reduced thermic effect of food, obviously you're eating less food, but also the less you eat, your body learns to be more efficient. It does everything to be more efficient, and it can digest the food and absorb it without us expending as much energy if you reduce your calories too low. The next one, yeah, I said less moving around. So if you're not eating very much, you're lazy. You don't know that you're lazy, but indirectly you will move less. That next one, reduced heart rate, which is linked to a couple of the ones lower down. See that ring, increased mitochondrial efficiency? That sounds posh. Do you know what mitochondria are? They're the things that produce energy. So they're the thing in your muscle cells. There's a thing called ATP. That's the only thing that your body can use for energy. I'm talking to somebody about it in training, because your body's got different ways of making it. With oxygen, if we're doing long stuff, without oxygen, if we're doing short stuff. Basically, you get more of them, and they can produce energy more efficiently. And so they produce energy for everything that you do. So by eating less, by putting yourself on restriction, they become more and more efficient. Reduce protein synthesis, so that is to build more muscle, or indeed for your organs, for the tissues for them to turn over. That requires a lot of energy. The rate of that will slow down. Especially, obviously, the less protein you eat as well, the less that will happen. But often, like a high carb, low fat day, you want quite a lot of protein. We got, reduced lean body mass, which is kind of so I always talk about the main thing on that basal metabolic rate is your weight, that is not your fat weight. So everything off you that there is, bones, muscles, organs, skin, takes calories to burn. Fat is the stored energy, effectively. So when you're sat down, the more muscle you have, the more calories you turn over. If you reduce your calories, not only fat mass will go, but lean mass will go, especially if you're dropping real low. So that will contribute to slowing your metabolism. Your thyroid hormone, people always talk about you hear people say, I've got an overactive thyroid all the time. That basically regulates the speed of your metabolism. So if you underfeed yourself, the thyroid output will go down as well. So the quickest way to have an underactive thyroid is to stop eating. Reduce fat oxidation. So your body, as soon as you start getting to a low body fat, or as soon as you reduce your calories a lot, your body knows that body fat's going to go. So it doesn't want to die, basically. All these things are just making sure that you're going to survive. Obviously you're not going to die, but our ancestors under these conditions of restriction would have. And so it'll stop burning fat, because if it can keep all the fat, it's always got some fuel, even in times of panic. That makes sense? And so it'll stop burning fat as much as possible. It doesn't want to burn fat. Okay, you can afford to get rid of some of your lean mass. That's not as important as the fat that will be used as a fuel. And then at the bottom there, so therefore increased conversion of carbohydrate in the body fat. So we know that carbohydrates basically produce energy, and it'll get stored in your muscles and your liver as glycogen, which is basically the sugar that you use for energy. But again, your body wants fat. If you're reducing your body fat, if you're reducing your calories certainly drastically, then it's doing whatever it can to keep hold of the body fat. The carbohydrate it's taking, it would rather store them as fat, because that's more energy dense form of energy than glycogen. Fat 9 calories a gram, carbohydrate 4 calories a gram. With me? Okay. So at the bottom of the page there, I've got basically, if hypothetically you're on a low calorie diet, you lose weight, but your metabolism slows down. The options are you either stay on that low calorie for your maintenance, which is usually completely unrealistic. You either eat as you did before, in which case your calories are now much higher than your metabolism and body fat shoots up. Or you do this thing I've mentioned here called a reverse diet, which involves a bit of patience, but we're going to that next. Any questions about anything? No? Alright. Okay, so put this too far over for the screen, so right, this reverse diet. It's quite simple in terms of the mechanics of it, but it's just difficult to put into practice because it requires some patience. So that graph at the bottom, this is the opposite of the one we had earlier. So this is the ideal dieted and reverse dieting graph. So your body fat's here, find it to be lower. Rather than stepping your calories straight down, ideally, and I've been doing this myself recently, you just taper them off. Okay? Maybe over, say that's over 4 months. Right? In which time, yes, your body fat will go down with it, good. And your metabolism will start to slow down, but as ever, your metabolism is always a little bit behind. Okay? So that would be your ideal diet to make sure that you're in a position that you've not slowed your metabolism down, you've not detrimented your health, you've not lost any lean mass and all that sort of thing. Makes sense? Pretty simple. Now, the reverse diet would go basically exact mirror image. So you just start to taper your calories back in. Now, say you just go, we know now that the body fat's going to shoot on really quickly because the calories are higher. Yeah? So, what we're going to do is just taper it back up. In which time, ideally, if you can do this properly, then you can get your body fat will go on, obviously you will. Of course you will probably put on some weight. But what you're looking to do is get like this. So that your metabolic rate is now proportionately higher than the number of calories you see what I mean? And so you get this as high as possible. The higher this is, the better position you are in from a weight loss perspective. Now you could look at that from a recovery point of view with the bad example we gave earlier, this one, where metabolism slows down quite a lot. And say you're here, you're going to do the same thing. Now, I've written there some guidelines. Basically, the longer the length of the restriction, unfortunately, the longer time it's going to take you to recover. So you might be looking for some people at literally like 20 to 50 calories a day increase at first. Otherwise, your body can't keep up. You're just going to shoot back on. If it's only been a short term, say you've just dieted for like a month, then the best thing you can do is just over a month, just taper them back, the calories back in, say 100 a day per week. Then you back up 400 or 500 calories after a month. You would probably find if you did that, your body fat would barely increase. But it's getting to the head sometimes that you actually want to be eating as much as you can really. And so if you add on a little bit of body fat, it's okay if the number of calories you're eating is up considerably, because then your maintenance is going up. And the higher your maintenance, the easier it is to lose weight. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, there I've written it. Now, what foods to add back in depends on what foods that you've taken out. You go over the page. I've touched on this a little bit, avoiding it in the first place. Now, one thing you can do, if you're trying to lose weight, the first thing may well be, can you change anything with the activity levels? Now, further down that list, I've written, avoid excessive cardio. Yeah, I've not talked about this yet. The classic dieting strategy is to not eat very much and move loads. And by moving loads, but at a steady rate. So just plodding on a bike for hours or going for long jogs. It's just exacerbating the problem. So the more cardio you do, again, the slower your metabolism will get. Because the more and more, especially if it's all moderate intensity. So if you just out your comfort zone for a long period of time, that's enough for your body to have some adaptation. And so you increase the number of slow twitch muscle fibers. You want your heart to get bigger, you get more capillaries. Those mitochondria I'm talking about, you get more of them and they're better. Therefore, you can do the exercise. The better you get at running, the fitter you are. So, yeah, good thing. Fair enough, if that's what you're trying to do, that's good. But if you're trying to lose weight, the fitter you are, the slower your metabolism is, because the more energy efficient you are. So being fit is about being energy efficient. Follow? And so the more energy efficient you are, the harder it is to lose weight, because your body takes on calories and deals with them really well. So So offset that, that's why don't see me doing lots and lots of slow, steady cardio with people to lose weight. The one thing you can do is very, very low level. So walking, that sort of thing. There we're burning fuel, but it's not hard enough for your body to adapt to anything. Your body will only adapt to a stressor if it's fantastic. You with me? So walking shouldn't really give your body much adaptation. You're just burning energy without changing any of those things that I said make you more efficient. So walking more, fine. But jogging, mid-level cycling, that sort of thing, not so good. That's where the strength training, why I'm big on using the resistance and the compound resistance and keeping it fairly heavy, because that's contributing to the opposite and an increase basal metabolic rate or lean mass. It's teaching you to be inefficient. So say you get a weight you're lifting five times or even 10 times. It's as heavy as you can. You're doing that constantly. You're teaching your body to try and exert all its energy and then concentrate at a time. With doing the cardio, you're teaching it to save yourself over a longer time. You're trying to just burn it all up straight away. The other thing is getting off a bit of cardio. Your metabolism was up to do the work, it goes back down pretty soon after. Whereas, like what we did then with the sprints and the ropes, you're probably still feeling it now, I would, yeah. And that has an effect for a long time if you leave the gym. Burning calories. The more you take of what you promise, the more it takes to get back. It's normal. So that's another reason why I do that from the exercise point of view. Talking about what eating again, back to food. I said protein, I always like to keep that fairly high, 1 gram per kilo minimum, really. That's the one that's least likely to be converted to body fat. There's a lot of essential, talk about this again in the last one, there's essential amino acids, so there's certain proteins that you need, your body can't break. If you're training with weights as well, you're breaking down more proteins, the amount you need to take in will be increased. If you're trying to gain muscle, you probably want that up near 2, if not 3 grams per kilo body weight. But for anyone, I would keep a maintenance of at least 1 gram, that one without doubt. Same with fats, we need essential fats, and from natural sources ideally. The funny one is always carbohydrate because it's the only one that we don't absolutely need. It's the one that most people eat the most of, and it's the one that is it's socially difficult to avoid it completely, obviously. Now, the more exercise you do, especially when we're doing strength training, when we're doing sprints, that kind of exercise, you're burning sugars, you're burning glycogen. And so, the more of that you do, the more carbohydrate your body will be able to tolerate. If you're working at low intensity, you are burning fat more. But as I said, the long-term implications of working at low intensity are much worse for you. So the more exercise you do depends on the more carbohydrate you're able to take in. The time of day as well, after, if you're eating it, the time I would have the carbohydrate is after you train, because your body's crying out for fuel. People make the mistake of having it, thinking in the morning is the best time to have it and burn it off during the day. Really, if you wake up in the morning in a prime state to burn fat, if you throw the sugars down, your body will learn to run off that. You're in charge of whether your body runs more off fat as a fuel or more off sugars as a fuel. The more fat you give it, the more it's going to run off that type. Right, at the bottom here, I've talked about, avoid high GI foods. We know this, we know what this is, most of us do. So, just the glycaemic index, and when I touched on diabetes before, and eating food that insulin goes up to take sugars out of blood into tissues, that's just a list, and it basically gives a score out of 100 as to how quickly that happens. Now, the implications of that are, the higher the glycaemic index, the bigger the blood sugar up, the bigger the down. The bigger the insulin spike, the more chance you become resistant to it. But also, the faster you're up, the faster you're down, the more hungry you get indirectly. So you end up eating more indirectly with these sort of foods. Yeah, we know this. I've just done this at the end, a list of foods, because it's surprising what you think is good and what is not so good. Right? Now, I'm not saying that isn't the ultimate guide on what is good food and what is not good food. But if you're eating something with a really high glycemic index, it's not natural, it's nothing in nature that gives you fuel that quickly. So, we'll do this together, right? These foods down bottom, not got my reference on, but remember most of them. Which one do you think is at the top? which ones are the highest? Which one of these foods will get in your bloodstream quickest? Snickers? No. Yeah, I think that is the top one. I think that is the top one. White baguette. Right, and out of 100, it scores like 95, right? So, right, which other ones are high? Okay. You know? Bananas, you said. High-ish, but they're not the worst all the time. White rice, yes, right? Yeah, white rice, I think that's about 90. Let's see what else we got here. White baguette. I think I know which one is next. Oh, yeah. Spaghetti is actually, it's high-ish. It's about 70, I think. There's a few more higher than that though. Second. Potato is, there's still another higher one. The baked potato is quite high. People always ask me when after lunch as well, aren't they? Cornflakes are ridiculously high. Right, they're about 90 as well. So that is a crazy breakfast. Because you eat this food, it's got no nutritional value other than the corn that's in it. And your body's turned it over an hour or so. Like, if people are eating this to get them through till lunchtime, it's a crazy breakfast. The interesting thing in that one is, well, if you eat people with sugar on the cornflakes, are like, that's naughty, you put sugar in the cornflakes. But if we're going on this glycaemic index, the sugar would have a score of about 65. It would actually lower the blood sugar spike of the overall meal by one sugar in your cornflakes. That's how quickly they do that. I know. The reason the table sugar is sucrose. You heard that term? And that is a molecule of glucose, which is the one that can most quickly be metabolized, so you get glucosate, and a molecule of fructose, which is the one you get in fruit. And fructose takes a bit longer because it has to go to your liver to get turned over. So it's just because you've got them together that it takes longer to. It tastes really sweet, but that's why it takes a bit longer, just so you know. Whereas the cornflakes doesn't have the fructose in it. So. Right, let's have a look. What else we got? Cornflake. Ice cream. Ice cream isn't that high, you know. There's a higher one. There's a higher one than ice cream on it. Yeah, spot on, yeah. Orange juice. That's about, I think that's about 70 as well, yeah. And I put that on there on purpose with orange because, I mean, actually, it's not the biggest difference in the world. Orange is about 60, but it's another thing about like juicing and all that. You're taking away the fibre, you're taking away some of the vitamin content, and if it's in liquid form, your body can absorb it more easily than in solid form. So you're much better having the orange juice. And the more important one, I've not mentioned this on here, is a thing called the glycemic load as well. So that is how much sugar per serving you tend to have. Now if you think about an orange, it's probably got 15 sugars in, maybe something like that. If you have a glass of Tropicana, there's a phenomenal amount of oranges that need to go into that. So you're having, with the juice, you're having much more total sugar as well as it being broken down quicker. Make sense? Right, let's have a look. What do we think's next? So, orange. Snickers is somewhere around here, yeah. Well, yeah, it's somewhere around 60 thereabouts. So and the other idea is ice cream is somewhere around here. Somewhere around 60. Sweet potato. Now, yeah, that is actually insane around here. You know what? May even be slightly higher. So, yeah, that's the one. I know you always go on about, I did a post once about sweet potato. You always talk about. Just because people often think sweet potato is like, it's like God and baked potato is the devil. And And like, it's probably slightly better, but the difference is not that great. Yes, the baked potato will give you a bit of a quicker blood spike than the sweet potato, but it's not the biggest difference in the world. And the total amount of calories per 100 grams is the same. The total amount of carbohydrates is the same. Just got a few more vitamins, a bit more fiber in the sweet potato. One thing possibly is that, I don't know if you can find this, but baked potato, white potato tend to over the week quite a lot more of it than sweet potato, it's a bit richer. So indirectly we eat less of it, but sweet potato is slightly better, but I wouldn't stress about the white potato instead. That's the option. So brown rice is somewhere next. So as I talked about, brown rice is, well, white rice is just brown rice with the fibrous casing taken off. But the thing is, it's still a high carbohydrate food. It's got a bit more fiber in it. It takes longer to break down, but it's still reasonably high. On this list, obviously, I've not got like chicken or eggs or broccoli because I can't find a guy sitting this on the internet with me on it. Vegetables will score like broccoli might be like 17 or something. It's a little bit of carbohydrate, but it's such a small amount. There's so much fiber and everything else. It's barely effective. The lowest one on there, I think, was banana would be somewhere around here. Grapefruit is really low actually. It's like 23, something like that. I've seen a few trials where people have I don't know how they do a placebo in, but they do a grapefruit versus grapefruit juice versus placebo. I don't know how to do a placebo grapefruit, but there you go. Anyway, and there's a slight help with controlling blood sugar and losing weight eating grapefruit. So if you like it, go with that. So yeah, that's just to highlight the fact that some things that you think, oh, that'd be a good idea, are not. And I would try to avoid things like with a score of over about 60. And certainly habitually. You know, obviously every now and then it's not going to kill you, but if you're eating these foods all the time, you're playing with your blood sugar and your insulin levels quite a lot, and your hunger, and possibly your long-term health as well. And again, none of these wouldn't find that in nature. You find the rice has to be farmed, but then they get it to that's been refined. That would be found in nature. Yes, they do, but obviously it grows up in the ground. Wouldn't be found in nature, wouldn't be found in nature. Definitely not. The Snickers. the Snickers bush. But the Snickers, it's a bit naughty to be putting it on this list almost because it's got nuts in it. And so if you eat these this is the score of these eaten in isolation. If you eat them in a mixed meal, then it bloods the response. So if you have white rice, but you have some broccoli and chicken with it, then that will blood the response a little bit because your body's got to deal with the whole lot. So the Snickers is kind of a mixed meal on its own. Snickers, it's chocolate and it's sugar and it's caramel and it's peanuts. That's why it's lower. I'm not saying you're better about the Snickers than the potato. That's not the idea of this. Obviously orange, yeah, so there you go. The only things, even honey, you see, that wouldn't score, that would be somewhere around here. There's nothing in nature with a really high score. It's all, but they taste nice because we're made to like them. But we used to need high sugar and high calorie dense foods when we had to fast when we were cavemen. So your brain is made to like it. So the food companies know this. It's quite cheap to make these, especially corn-based products. You know how much you can get a basic box of cornflakes for like 50p probably, can't you? But it's just nonsense food. But they can produce it quite cheaply. You like it, so that's why these foods exist. But they're just not doing you any good. Yeah. That'll do us, I think. Any questions about anything? No one said anything, really. Anything at all? No. You want a whole menu for the week? Yeah. Well, I could do food plans, but I can't do it for free. Anything at all? No? Okay then. Thanks for coming along. That'll do.